You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 215. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Spencer Valdez.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and other content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy our show, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher. And I just hit Spencer on the chest to try to remind him that his line is to tell you to rate and review us on iTunes.
Yeah, I usually do that at the end of the show.
Oh, you're doing it at the bottom of the show now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well...
That's how I've done it every time I've done it.
It's been a while. We're just coming back from hiatus.
It is hiatus.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just going to go with it. At the top
rate and review us on iTunes.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, good. That's terrific.
I might still do it at the end of the show.
That's fine. They need a reminder. I want to do it at the top of the show in case people don't listen to the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because some people
stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, but Spencer's roommate, Sean, is here. Why do you have to insult him like that? He's nice. Anyway, at the top of the show, I want to get in the habit of plugging another show that I think is good and people who like our show would also enjoy. Mm-hmm. Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. It's awesome. Probably the best podcast out there. If you don't listen to it, you are square. Because it's rad.
What do they discuss on their podcast?
They explain the X-Men.
Oh!
And so they are doing the Lord's work. Okay, it's a great show. Right. It's terrific. So anyway, you and I will be talking about Silver Age Green Lantern today.
Yeah, we will continue our trek through
our long slog is what I like to call it. Because I'm just like, it's like 4 or 5 months before we get to the Legion. You know, that's,
I think we are almost halfway through our. I think
we are today. I think marks about midway between the showcase volumes of Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So
suck it up, and we'll get through them.
Okay. You're saying me to suck it up?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So the first issue we're going to talk about is Green Lantern number 48. Cover dated October of 1966, and cover art by Gil Kane. Mm-hmm. And on the cover here, we've got Gil Kane, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. Wow, this is just great. Facing off against a Goldface, who is a new villain, but someone we've seen before.
Yeah.
And so the story in this issue is called Goldface's grudge fight against Green Lantern.
Right.
Written by Gardner Fox, penciled by Gil Kane, and inked by Sid Green.
Mm-hmm. So this story starts off with some henchmen trying to break into a bank vault, and a kind of a bank guard trying to sneak up on them and stop them. But in the shadows is Goldface waiting for the guard to pass him, and he nails him with this new gold gun kind of thing. It fires a puff of gold dust stuff that transforms the guard into a solid statue of gold, and he leaves a note on it saying, "I offer you a trade, Green Lantern. This man's life in exchange for yours. If you agree, prepare to turn yourself over to Goldface." And so we jump over sideways to oh my gosh!
Jump over sideways? Are we doing double Dutch?
Yes. No, we're not.
What are you talking about then? What do you mean by that?
We jump sideways to Hal Jordan and
you mean the scene changes away from Goldface doing supervillainy to
Pieface and Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
Pieface is reading the paper, and he's like, "Hey, there's this note for you on this guard. You got to go check it out." And Hal just kind of brushes it off. He says he has somewhere else to go right now, and he'll deal with that later. He recharges his ring, lets Pieface know that he has other responsibilities at the moment, and we get this kind of flashback scene to Green Lantern fighting
Keith Kenyon.
Keith Kenyon, that's right.
Wore Jodhpurs and had it was another villain with a hotel doorman uniform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Sonar.
Yes, exactly, like Sonar. It looks a lot like Sonar's.
Did Sonar have Jodhpurs? I don't remember. Keep talking. I'm going to look in the back of the book.
I think so. Yeah. So the last time they faced off, Green Lantern used the Power Ring and created Aqua Regia.
I think Regia.
Regia?
I'm thinking so.
Okay. And it's like it was used to dissolve the gold that protected Keith Kenyon.
Yeah, because he's obsessed with gold and stuff because he's weird.
Right. And so we find out that Hal's previous engagement is like going to a pre-release party for a movie.
A movie premiere.
Right.
With Zuzu Lamar, who is totally supposed to be Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Yeah. I looked her up. I was like, that's gotta be her. And I mean,
you gotta be right.
It's a perfect match. And so the party is at Carol's place. She's super stoked that Green Lantern's coming to her party because she loves Green Lantern.
But thinks Hal's a douche.
Yeah.
No, she thinks Hal's okay.
I think she thinks he's kind of square. Like,
wouldn't you?
He's a pilot for experimental spacecraft.
Not spacecraft.
Or
aircraft.
Aircraft. That's pretty rad. That's a rad job.
It is. But, Carol is rich and spoiled and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's crazy.
We did get called out for calling her crazy.
By who?
By Stephen Grant.
Did he?
Yeah, he was like, you'll call Carol crazy, but when one of the last issues we did, there was another...
Oh, it's the gal from the future?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
She is a little crazy. But
here's the thing. I think you'll notice the women in all these Silver Age DC books, they're all nuts. Jean Loring, nuts. Iris, kind of a bitch. Iris Allen. And
as if there's another Iris.
Right. Well, I just want to be clear. Let me be clear. And Lois Lane and Lana Lang. Oh my God. And Lucy Lane. Lucy Lane is a real shrew too.
Oh.
She's always leading Jimmy Olsen on. She's like the worst girlfriend. Anyway.
So Hal, being just, so right now he's Green Lantern. He's in the Green Lantern persona.
Okay.
He kind of shrugs off Carol at the party and goes straight for Zuzu Lamar, and Carol's like, well,
and he's doing it just to be a dick to Carol.
Yeah. There's no other reason.
And she is pissed.
Yeah.
And I love it.
He asks Zuzu to dance. He's like, of course I'll accompany you to the premiere. And Carol is furious. But while this is happening, Pieface is at the dentist. And he told Green Lantern, yeah, I'll meet you up later. And out of nowhere, his gold filling...
He starts picking up a radio signal.
Yeah.
Now, this is a weird urban myth that you could pick up radio signals in the fillings in your teeth.
Oh.
And that's being applied
That's
here.
fun.
Yeah, I think that they do that on Mythbusters, Sean?
I do not recall.
Okay. Maybe they
useless.
did. I'll ask my brother-in-law. He knows everything.
Yeah.
He's like a wizard.
Maybe he is a wizard.
You're a wizard, Harry.
No. We should move on.
I know your brother. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't make him any less of a wizard.
He is a wizard, but not commanding spells and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But, there's different kinds of wizards. But
Anyways.
technologically speaking, he is a wizard.
Right.
And please ignore the racial stereotype that I just did. And he's not Asian. I don't know why I just threw that up.
No, he's super white.
Yeah, he's from Sacramento. He is pretty honkified. Yeah.
So back to Pi and his talking tooth. It starts sending out like a repeating message, calling out Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And so Pi immediately bursts into the party and's like, "You gotta do something about this." Now here's the thing. We all know that Pi. So the common person in this universe knows that Pieface and Green Lantern are pretty good pals.
Yeah.
They also know that Hal Jordan and Pieface are pretty good pals. and they can't put those two things together. Like Carol can't figure that out. Pieface is always hanging out with either Hal Jordan,
but see,
his wife, or Green Lantern.
Here's the thing. You're expecting Carol to figure it out, assuming that she is a rational person. And as we have demonstrated time and time again, that she's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
I guess if you can't hear his voice and not know that he's Hal Jordan, then it's okay.
Like, a domino mask is not a very good disguise, actually.
No. Right. So Hal Jordan's finally said, alright, I gotta take care of this. He goes and he finds the guard, and he's attacked by Goldface's henchmen while he's in the bank still.
His henchmen's uniforms are pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they look kind of like futuristic.
Yeah.
And they all kind of like match. I think
well, henchman uniforms typically do.
Well, most of the time when bad guys in this series at least have had henchmen, they're like mob-looking guys with like suits and ties and stuff.
Right, but we have seen costumed henchmen too.
Right,
we've had both.
Okay.
I'm glad they don't like have a really similar costume to Goldface, because some villains will do that.
Yeah,
their henchmen will have like their costume will look like theirs, but like less cool
or
less accessorized.
Mm.
So
coming up, I did get a little confused at who was who in the midst of a fight.
Yeah, and that'll happen.
So Hal flies. They're actually not in the bank. They're in the modern art museum or something like that, and ancient art museum. And they get into like a brawl with henchmen, and Goldface is again kind of hiding, waiting to spring his trap on Hal Jordan or Green Lantern.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, he's hiding behind this like rock wall that gets knocked by a chariot that Hal punched a henchman into, and gets trapped when the rock wall falls over.
I love how superhero versus supervillain fights take place in museums and amusement parks.
Yeah,
like a lot.
And so he's not using his power ring much right now.
Yeah,
he's just like laying into him with his fists, and he takes out all the henchmen, and Goldface is kind of just left behind after Hal ends up using the power ring to create a giant vacuum and sucks up the henchmen into the vacuum and like carts them off to jail.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. And, Goldface is like, he beat all my henchmen. I'm pissed.
As one does.
Right.
Shakes his fist, like a villain does.
Hal Jordan brushes it all off, like, I got them all, and goes to the premiere with Zuzu. Again, kind of pissing off Carol. But in the right before he's getting interviewed, in this on the marquee, words start to kind of change. Some words are lit up and others are not. And the original says Coast City premiere produced by Golden Miner, starring Zuzu Lamar and William Beak, another minor miracle.
Yeah, and so then Goldface's message lights up and highlights certain letters in the message, and it says
Coast City gold mine will be mine. That's a challenge, GL. A summons to your bravery once again against me. So again, Goldface wasn't caught. Green Lantern has to go deal with it.
Indeed.
And all the he starts talking through the microphone that the reporter had when he was trying to interview Zuzu and Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge that Green Lantern can't just let go. He can't just go.
Right. It's because when somebody challenges you in public, you have to answer for it. It's not like you got a note that showed up at your headquarters and you got to go take care of it.
Right.
And you have the option. It's like, you called you out in public, you have to do something.
Right. And so, just another way to stick it to Carol, how right before he takes off, he apologizes and kisses the hand of Zuzu, and Carol is fuming, and it is awesome.
Yeah.
And so he takes off. Green Lantern takes off towards the gold mine, There's some henchmen, and he takes them all out. Like he grabs a hold of a cart on the tracks that lead into the gold mine.
Yeah.
And he just flies the cart into like 5 or 6 henchmen, knocking them to the ground and just totally like
and breaking all their ribs, puncturing lungs.
Right. He ends up punching a guy through one of the like posts that holds up the cave, starting to break down pieces of the cavern or the mine.
That's a cool place for a fight, in a mine shaft.
Well, right, but it's also very dangerous. If you start knocking down all those posts,
right,
you're going to bring down the mountain on top of you. And that's what he's kind of hoping for.
Hal is?
Hal, Green Lantern.
Oh.
He's hoping that if he causes enough threat to Goldenface, like many other villains, he will cower and like, oh no, I don't want this mountain to fall on me, you know?
Right, okay.
And Goldface, like, mans up and says, no, I'm not going to take that. And
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Because I feel like most villains would be like, well, let's take it outside, you know?
Well, or, you know, what is the famous and tired Batman thing? Criminals are a cowardly and superstitious lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, the cowardly part is, like, you know, Hal was basically expecting Goldface to be a Skeletor or a Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
And
try to escape or...
Yeah, like, and he's actually not.
Mm-hmm. And so, in that instance, Green Lantern says, alright, fine, and he lobs this little kind of pebble at him.
Yeah.
And it's actually a capsule filled with the...
Aqua Regia.
Yeah. But it doesn't work. It just bounces off.
Because Goldface anticipated that and made his gold formula or whatever more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a cop-out.
Right.
But, you know, it's... like, if you defeat it in the same way twice, that's kind of lame.
But, I mean, you see that sometimes, like, oh, the baddie will just try to hit you as hard as he can and never change his plan.
Right. Or, remember that, so here's an example, Evil Star. He beat him the same way both times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's something pretty recent.
Yeah. And so I like that it might seem like a cop-out. Oh, he fixed it. But at the same time, he's learned from his mistakes, and he's making better choices now.
Yeah.
And so Hal grabs a beam and just tries to nail him with it, and it just kind of bounces off. And in that instant, boom, Goldface hits him with the gold-powdered gun.
Right, and so turns him to gold.
Turns him into gold. He then leads... He has his henchmen bring Green Lantern back to his like lair, where he's created a device to counteract the gold gun, and he actually like lives up to his promise and says, "Look, Green Lantern came, he faced me, and it was his life."
So he turned that guard back to a regular person.
He turned the guard back to the regular person, but while he's doing it, Hal breaks free of the gold and just wallops.
So what? How did Hal get free? We'll find out later.
He pulls the kind of canisters off the back of Goldface.
Yeah.
And Goldface actually doesn't need them. He finds out that the gold that he has like a gold blast thing that comes from his helmet.
Right.
And the gold blast hits the canisters and it turns them to gold.
Right.
And so Hal like he's almost defenseless. Like his ring won't work against it because it's gold and yellow.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he has to like just kind of dive out of the way and like formulate a plan. And so he realizes, oh, he's got to get the helmet off of him.
Yeah.
So he kind of flanks him and hits the back of his head, and he realizes, oh, there's a gold piece on the ground, and for some reason it's like reached room temperature, and so he's able to like mold it around his fist.
Interesting. Room temperature gold would not. But, you know, it's a comic book.
Right. And so one of the things that's powering the beam is this aura of gold that Goldface kind of has like running through him and around him.
Yeah, he sees it. What is it? Auric energy?
Yeah, auric energy. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so Hal's like, well, he creates gold with it. Maybe gold can hurt him. So he wraps it around his fist and just hits him in the gut. And he doubles over. And Hal's like, while he's like right before he's about to blast him with the gold ray, he like hits him and it bends him over and he shoots his own legs with the gold ring. So, like,
now, wouldn't you freak out if you had turned your own legs into gold?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And so Hal is able to get behind him, finds a release switch on the helmet, and pops it off, and uses the helmet on Goldface himself, turns him into gold, and carts him off to jail.
Right.
And he kind of comes back and explains it to Pieface. He's like, whoa, okay, hold on. You always come back and you tell me how you did it. Tell me now, because this doesn't make any sense.
Right. And so, what Hal did was, when he saw Goldface shooting, he explains to Pieface, when Goldface shooting the gold gun at him, he knew he wouldn't be able to use the ring to defend himself against it because it's yellow.
Mm-hmm.
But, so he used the ring's power to turn the air next to his body solid. So that would stop the gold.
Right.
So he's indirectly able to stop it, which, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd be cased in it and hauled off to Goldface's hideout, and then he could bust out at his leisure.
Right. And that's exactly what he did. And so he comes back and he meets Zuzu. And like they all go out to like a nice restaurant. Zuzu, him, Carol, Pieface, and Pieface's wife. I can't remember her name.
Turga.
There it is. And again, he asks Zuzu to dance with him, and Carol is again just furious. And then we have Pieface's reaction, like, why is he doing that? That's why he's doing it. He knows it's gonna piss off Carol.
Yeah, and he's doing it to get her go, which is really not the best way to win a girl's heart.
No.
But he's doing it as Green Lantern.
Yeah. Because he
if he's... The whole thing is, it's so stupid. He wants Carol to want him for Hal. Mm-hmm. All he has to do is take the mask off.
Right.
Like, look, I'm Green Lantern.
But the problem with that is that he doesn't want her to love him because of Green Lantern. And if he just takes the mask off, it's because Hal Jordan is
But he's
Green
an
Lantern.
idiot. She likes Hal.
Yeah.
And she loves her, is enamored with Green Lantern. It would totally win her over knowing that she...
Right.
But Hal's an idiot.
Yeah.
So,
okay. To Stephen Grant.
Okay. Hi, Stephen.
We understand that... So we claim that Carol is crazy. But we also understand that Green Lantern is kind of an idiot.
Yeah.
That he could just take off the mask and say, look, I'm Hal Jordan. That's how you could approach it is. I'm not Green Lantern. I am Hal Jordan.
I mean, this is like the most ridiculous will they, won't they. It's like, you can solve your problem really easily. But, it's comics. But yeah, and I've said early on when we started doing these Green Lanterns, it's like, Hal's kind of a dumbass sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So there's
it's in one of these stories. I want to mention, you were just talking about Turga and Pieface.
Mm-hmm.
Pie says to Hal in one of these, Turga's working late tonight, so I'm free until whenever. And I think it's in this next issue. And I'm thinking, what is Turga's job that she's working nights?
Yeah.
Yeah. And while you're sitting at home, whatever.
I mean, it's not like he's a layabout.
Yeah, he does have a day job.
Right,
okay. But anyway, it's just something that came to mind. I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
But yes, let's talk about Green Lantern number 49, which is the December of 1966 issue.
Mm-hmm. Cover
Art by Gil Kane. You see, it's the Dazzler. Who is he? What is he? He is not the Marvel Comics character from the X-Men, who doesn't debut until the late 70s.
Right.
But yeah, and is a gal.
The cover, we don't even have an idea of who he might be. It's just a pure shadow, and Hal's just trying to nail him with his power.
But sometimes the mysterious new villain who's not even revealed on the cover, that can be a good selling point. I wonder,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the story in this issue is called "The Spectacular Robberies of TV's Master Villain."
Yeah.
And this was written by John Broome, penciled by Gil Kane, and inked by Sid Green.
Yeah.
Now, this story heavily references the Batmania of 1966, the campy Batman TV show. There are several references that kind of indicating that's the zeitgeist of pop culture at the time. So,
yeah.
Anyway, go.
So this also references a very major detail in Barry Allen's life.
Oh, yeah!
The story starts off with Hal Jordan coming back from outer space on a mission for the Guardians.
And he's got a letter. It's an invitation to Barry and Iris's wedding.
Yeah.
And, of course, he missed it because he was in space.
Yeah. But he also has the question of, did Barry tell Iris that he's the Flash? How does that work?
And he did.
Yeah.
But,
and so that's like, it's like a big push for Hal Jordan. He's like, you know what? If Barry can do it, I can do it. And he's decided he's going to go ask Carol's hand in marriage.
Which is
as Hal Jordan.
Just pretty ballsy considering they're not in a relationship.
Right, they're not courting at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying, but,
Right, yeah.
But yeah.
So he shows up, and he has this conversation with Carol, and she says, look, you've been away, and this other man's come into my life, Jason, something. Oh my gosh. Oh, Jason Belmore.
Yeah.
And I've accepted his proposal, and we will be married. And the look on Hal's face is just utter distraught.
He's totally crestfallen.
Yeah.
I love that word.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, she says, I'm sorry, my life has gone a different direction, I'm going to marry this guy, we're very well suited, and how it's alright, I understand. And then, with a tear in her eye, Carol says, let's always be friends. And,
yeah.
They're doing the Casablanca thing.
It's a good movie.
I wish you and the lucky man best of happiness. And Hal tears out of there.
Now he takes it like a man, but he's bombed.
Yeah. As he's racing back to the city, he sees a streak across the sky, and he's like, "Oh, I wonder if that was a UFO." It looked like a UFO.
There's even an editor's note to saying what the UFO stands for, unidentified flying object. Now, it's a relatively new term.
Right.
But it had been in usage since the late 40s.
And I have a feeling if you're reading comic books,
you definitely know what that means.
Yeah, you have an idea what that means.
Yeah.
So,
but, fun.
Yeah. And if this was someone's first comic book, and they've never dived into sci-fi.
If you were born in a barn, you might not know what a UFO is. So
exactly. And back then, totally legitimate to be born in a barn.
Yeah.
Today, not so much.
You could be born a coal miner's daughter.
I guess.
If you were Tammy Wynette. But I think that's who that was.
Anyway, so Hal dives down an alleyway and changes into his Green Lantern outfit and takes off after the shooting star UFO thing. And he makes it to a...
Sorry, Coal Miner's Daughter is the story of Loretta Lynn, not Tammy Wynette. So, anyway. I knew I was wrong. Okay.
He makes it to, I think it's a bank. Yeah, it's definitely a bank. And,
a bank robbery in a comic book?
Right. Great Guardians, either I'm seeing things, or that's the Dazzler robbing the safe in the fur warehouse. Oh, it's a fur warehouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Those are minor details that I don't pay attention to when I'm reading.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
The place being robbed is just the plot device for the real whatever. So, but yeah, the Dazzler is this fictional character on a TV show, so confusion sets in.
Yeah. Hal tries to take him out, and he, disappears before Hal can get him. It was really weird. Green Lantern lunges at him, and they have a little bit of a scuffle, and Dazzler's gone. Hal wakes up a couple minutes later, what just happened? And at the same time, Pieface is watching the show, The Dazzler, and it gives a brief description of that the Dazzler is this character that...
he's like a super criminal.
Yeah, he's a criminal, but every week, Monday night, he escapes. By Friday, he's been captured and sent back into jail, and that, Law and Order always wins out.
Yeah.
And there's even, a PSA.
Yeah, but then also, Pieface describes it as it's in the new camp style, not to be taken seriously. And that's totally talking about Batman.
Yeah.
So. The TV show.
Yeah. And so Hal Jordan comes back eating a sandwich, which is, I think, great. And he's kind of explaining it to Pieface, like, yeah, I totally saw the Dazzler. And he's like, I just watched the show.
And it's so funny because he references, well, you know, because Pieface is like, well, how could that be? Mm-hmm. Like, Hal's like, well, maybe it was taped. In the early days of television, not so much in the 60s, well, it was still happening. A lot of shows, even dramas and, you know, not news things, were filmed live. Mm. Not everything was taped.
Right.
And so that's a kind of a real thing. A lot of TV soap operas, for instance, were done on live television.
And so Hal's just like, well, I got to go down there and check it out. If it was filmed live, everyone would still be there, and it wouldn't be a problem. So he heads down to the studio with Pieface, and he starts to question everyone. He questions the, looks like the producer, the actor Ken Baldwin, a police officer, the district attorney, and there's also the Mr. Henry Peters, the special effects man on the show.
Who's weird looking.
Yeah, he's kind of looking down at the floor, like, trying not to raise attention to himself and things.
Which is always a dead giveaway.
Right, yeah. And so Hal questions him on. He's like, well, obviously you didn't do it because it was filmed live.
Cheers was filmed before a live studio audience.
It
remember
was.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I remember reruns.
Right, but you remember they would always say that
yeah.
in the opening of the show? Okay.
Yeah.
After the greatest theme song, one of them. Okay.
And so, totally confused, Hal and Pieface fly back to Pieface's place, and he just kind of starts to break down. Like, he explains to Pieface, like, this is what Carol said. It didn't work out. He's losing it, and he's just decided, I've lost Carol because I'm Green Lantern. And so he's about to give up. But then Pieface reminds him, look, remember the Green Lantern girl that you told me about that wanted to give up?
Kat Matsui.
Yeah. He didn't use her name, though.
I know, but I'm just making reference.
Yeah. You told her, once a Green Lantern, always a Green Lantern. And that's something you have to live up to.
Yeah.
And so Hal's like, you're right. I got it. I never quit. And so he decides to actually jump back into things and find the...
Green Lanterns never say die.
Right.
I don't know if that's a thing.
I mean...
Goonies never say die. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. I get them mixed up sometimes.
Stupid Goonies.
Screw you.
So, Pieface kind of, like, lets him in on, like, somewhat, like, about the show and stuff, and he's like, look, the special effects, like you kind of explained, it's like the same thing, so we need to talk to the special effects guy. They find him, and they try to probe his mind, and it's impossible. And so Hal, like, kind of flies and goes to, like, grab after him, and Henry, like, trips and nails the side of his head against a fountain. And so at that point, Hal is able to probe the mind of Henry Peters, the special effects guy. And it turns out his name isn't Henry Peters at all. His name is Kahu Ebor from of the 12th planet of the star Aldrin.
Okay.
And so he's from this super advanced civilization
where people are boring.
Pretty much, they spend all their time learning and not much time doing. But he doesn't have a job like that. He's kind of more of a clerk. For all these people who get to learn all this stuff, he's the one who goes and finds the Mento spools, which hold the memories of, like...
Can you imagine this guy in a Mentos commercial?
No. And so he finds one. He's like, oh, this one's old. It's not been used much. And so he's like, you know what? I'm going to check it out. And he finds out that in an ancient society, they used to
have a thing called theater, dramas. Yeah. And he totally thinks it's the raddest thing ever.
Yeah.
But he realizes the society he is in is boring and lame and would never accept, there's none of that in his world. So he hatches a plan to leave his world to go to a planet where he could try and become an actor.
Yeah. And so the planet that the Mento spool referenced was XK12B3.
Which is Earth, right?
Yeah, it turns out that it's Earth. And so he comes to Earth, and he does his best to, like, he's like, I can't use my powers. No one else has them here. The only thing I'm going to use my powers for is to learn the language. He learns the language, and then starts going on all these casting calls, and he, like, everyone ends up turning him down because his accent is so thick.
Yeah.
And this is during the Red Scare, so if
foreigner
you have an
from
accent,
another planet.
You're a commie, and if you're a commie...
I don't even think it was a commie thing. It just seemed like from not America.
Right. And so he gets really bummed, and so he figures out he can become like a special effects guy.
Yeah, or just
with his knowledge of like how things work and physics and stuff, he can do really cool special effects.
Yeah, so he gets to work on some level in show business.
Right. But kind of before, so we find that out. But then he starts to kind of come to.
The setup is so complicated for this.
He starts to come to, and Hal decides, well, I need more information, and just clocks him and knocks him out again so he can probe his mind.
If he's already probing his mind, couldn't he knock you out if he's in your mind?
I don't know.
You would think, right?
Yeah. So the problem for Henry Peters or Kahu Ibor.
Let's just say Henry Peters.
Yeah. Is that during one of the special effects, the actor who plays the Dazzler, he was like flying through the air.
He was doing some wire work.
Yeah, the cable breaks, and he's about to fall and get injured. And in a moment of emergency, Henry Peters uses his mental powers to guide him up onto a balcony. And everyone's like, "Oh man, your cable must have broke at just the right minute." And he's like, "Yeah." But then he confronts Henry Peters and says, "You know what happened. I know what happened." And he kind of sweet talks him into teaching him how to use those kinds of powers. But then the Dazzler, the actor, gets better at using the powers than Henry Peters, and kind of locks him in his own mind prison.
Yeah, because
can control him,
and he does it because he doesn't want him to teach anybody else to use powers like that.
Right? Yeah. And so, without information, Green Lantern takes off, and he's like, he goes to find the Dazzler, and when he finds him, the Dazzler splits into 3 people,
like Triplicate Girl.
Yeah,
only with a goatee,
and actually 3 of her.
Huh?
Just one of them died.
Shh.
Oh, right.
Spoilers.
Yeah. And so Hal's like fighting him off, and he realizes that his ring isn't going to work because he can use the mind thing to block his power ring.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "All right, fine. We're just going to brawl it out." And he just kicks the kind of crap out of him. He knocks one of them out, and he immediately jumps on and uses like the power ring to probe the mind, and he's able to dissipate the other 2 Dazzlers.
Yeah.
And
it'd be hilarious if he fought the Bee Dazzler. Just putting rhinestones on denim jackets.
Yeah.
Okay.
He probes his mind so much that he's able to block any of the mental powers that the Dazzler has.
Yeah.
And he carts him off to jail, and then he comes back to talk with Henry Peters, but he's already gone. And Pieface explains that he thanks Green Lantern and that this world's not ready for his kind, and decides, even though it's going to mean he's probably going to go to jail because you're not allowed to use the transporter that way, it's better for him to go back to his planet.
Yeah.
And so he does, and Hal Jordan's like, "Hey, that was a good thing to do. Maybe they'll have mercy on him."
Yeah. Pieface thinks he might start an acting troupe in prison.
Yeah. But the kind of surprise ending is that Hal Jordan decides, "I can't be here anymore."
He decides to leave Coast City.
Yeah. And, I mean, that leaves Pieface in tears. He goes and gathers up his power battery and takes off into the night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. An interesting shift in the life of Hal Jordan. You got to shake up this status quo somehow.
Yeah.
And this is good. A nice example of subplot and really being way more important than the main plot.
Yeah.
Which I can dig that too. And you'll see that. Well, you see that happen in lots of comics, where you have the villain of the month, but then your major dramatics, B story going on, carrying over. So I don't know. You see that a lot. I think Spider-Man.
Well, even later on in Green Lantern, with Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams' run, is that like Hal and Ollie just take off, and they're like, "Look, we got to explore this place we call home. There's a ton of bad stuff here."
Yeah.
And so even though they're kind
this wasn't what I meant.
Well, no, they have a villain of the day, kind of. In
sure, but in each of those villains is a social issue.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's an underlying plot of
but like there's a theme running through it. That's not what I was talking about, but that's okay. That is very interesting though, because it's confronting social issues and these stories are going on, but there's no real subplots going on in those.
Okay.
That I can recall. I mean, we're going to talk about them when we get there, but
I think it's the next volume.
No, that's going to be in volume 5.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Of Showcase. But anyway, let's talk about the next and final issue we're going to talk about for this episode. It's Green Lantern number 50, January of 1967, cover date. Cover art by Gil Kane. And it's great. It's Green Lantern getting his butt kicked by a Thraxton the Powerful.
Yeah.
And the story in this, the lead story, isn't the cover story.
No.
Also, look on the cover. We've got it's the Go-Go Check era on the top of a lot of the covers. I didn't notice if the other issues we talked about today had those. Yep. They had them.
Yeah.
I wonder when the Go-Go Check started. Sometime
it's not as prominent as this one.
Oh, okay.
In issue number 49.
Oh man, no, I think Go-Go Checks have been going for a while. I just didn't notice them until now.
Oh.
Anyway, but the lead story in this issue is called "The Quest of the Wicked Queen of Hearts."
Yeah.
Written by John Broome and penciled and inked by Gil Kane.
It's Big John Broome and the good-looking Gil Kane.
Yes. And that's such a Marvel Comics kind of credits box, but I approve. So.
All right, let's jump in. So Hal has stuck to his work. He is not in Coast City anymore. No. He's actually in Idaho, I think.
Gross.
Yeah. Who goes to Idaho?
Skinheads.
But he's
farmers.
He's found a place where he can be kind of a pilot tour guide for this like mom and pop airfield. Like it's this dad and his daughter,
and they have a hotel.
Yeah,
or like a B&B or something.
Yeah. So you come and stay at their B&B, and you get like a
go on airplane ride
tour of Idaho.
Wow!
Yeah,
look at all those fields and rocks.
Yeah.
Wow!
No offense to any of our Idaho listeners.
I mean, great offense to
them. We're neighbors. We shouldn't be that.
That's on the other side of Oregon, touching over there. I'd like to forget it. You got to get all the way to Enterprise in Vail, Oregon, to get close to Idaho.
Yeah. Anyways, so Hal is...
Ironically, I dated a girl from Enterprise and a girl from Vail.
Huh.
Weird, huh?
I did not.
Yeah.
Because I have standards.
No, they were good-looking girls. What are you doing? You're from California.
Yeah.
From dog poop, California. Where are you from?
Manteca, California.
Yeah, gross.
You know where that is? Next to Stockton.
No,
yuck.
That's not dog poop. It's lard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lard, California. Let's just jump back to Green Lantern, huh?
Oh, backpedaling now. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So Hal has taken these two foreigners, Germans, on a kind of a plane ride, and they've landed and are kind of camping out, hanging out in kind of the wilderness. And Hal's like, I thought these foreigners were bad news when I first saw them, and he's like kind of looking off and like.
I think it's funny they had a campfire right next to the plane.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so he's kind of looking off, and he's like, I was wrong about these guys. But as he's thinking it, a guy sneaks up with a gun behind him, and so Hal like spins around and clocks him.
Yeah.
Nope, I was right. But he can't...
Learn your lesson, kids.
Right.
Never trust foreigners.
He can't turn into Green Lantern or they know his secret. Yeah. And he's also kind of taken this weird personal vow.
To not use the ring unless he's got him.
And unless it's an absolute emergency.
And really what it is, it's giving Gil Kane the opportunity to draw Hal punching people instead of using the ring like a magic wand for everything.
Yeah, I think it's also... I think you're kind of right. I think that the way Hal Jordan has been in the past is he doesn't know the difference between Green Lantern, where Green Lantern starts, and
Hal Jordan ends.
And where Hal Jordan starts
I see.
And Green Lantern ends.
So he's having an identity crisis.
Yeah, and I think by using Justice Fist, he's able to bring in an aspect of Hal Jordan into the persona of Green Lantern. So instead of being Green Lantern Hal Jordan, he is Hal Jordan, a Green Lantern. So he is a human man first, and his name is Hal Jordan. And an aspect of him is Green Lantern.
That's an important distinction to make, and that's an important journey that everybody has to undertake in their life.
Right.
In finding yourself and your identity, and you kind of have to do that.
A good opposite of that is Batman, who I think is the real persona is Batman, and the mask is Bruce Wayne. And
Batman is a story where the Bat overtook Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't always that way.
Right.
So
yeah, that is a modern interpretation of Batman. I will say that.
But it's a very popular one these days. So yeah,
especially in the Nolan movies.
Yeah, I think the Nolan movies really popularized that notion.
Yeah.
So
anyways, so there's your comic book theory for the day. In your face.
In your ears.
In your ears.
Yeah.
So Hal kind of takes these guys out, but then is like clocked in the back of the head and is knocked out. And he kind of falls into the river, and so they're like, yeah, he'll drown. Let's take the plane back and go get our loot. And so they fly back to the hotel bed and breakfast. And this is where we're kind of introduced to the father and daughter who run the place. There's no mention of the wife, but the brother and the son was a soldier in World War II who died in combat, and his dad has kind of set up kind of a almost shrine memorial to him in the house, and the daughter's like, look, I love him too, but sooner or later you're going to have to move on from that because you're just living in the past. And the dad's like, no, everyone needs to remember what an upstanding, good American boy he was, and I will not let that memory die.
Yeah.
And so the two German guys come back, and as soon as they come in, the dad's like, I was a little worried about them at first because they were the bad guys when your brother was in the war. But now it's not so bad. But as soon as they come in the house, they like pull a gun on them and shove them into a closet and tell them not to leave. They start to ransack the house.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. And on one of the walls, the daughters put up a Green Lantern poster.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, check that out. The American hero Green Lantern. It's a good thing we don't have to deal with him. And they kind of round a corner, and they see a picture of the son kind of standing in salute.
Yeah.
And they were like, maybe behind there. And so they pull his picture off, pull his picture out of the frame, and they find the Wicked Queen of Hearts.
Which is this painting that they stole from Europe.
Yeah.
And were smuggling in, and the son, who was Mr. Goody that everybody thought, was really
a smuggler.
A real POS.
Yeah.
Stealing art treasures from Europe.
Yeah. He made a deal with these two German guys.
Nazis.
Nazis. While he was over there, and they were all going to split the loot 3 ways when they ransomed the picture back.
Yeah.
And so we flash sideways to Hal, and he's still kind of underwater, but the ring has protected him. It's put up a green. It says a green film around him. to protect him from drowning. And he starts to have kind of these memories before he like realizes he's gonna like kind of drowning. And it flashes back to the conversation he had with the daughter, and they're kind of keen on each other. Like he's like, oh, maybe this is the girl that can bring me out of my stupor with Carol. Like I'll get over Carol because of her.
Sure.
Which is kind of a terrible thing to do to a girl.
But sometimes, if you're in that position, you're like, it's like, okay,
I understand.
I can understand being in that position because I've been there.
Right.
Okay. And it's not so much to like, it's not right, but it's sometimes you do it. You kind of lie to yourself. Oh, this girl could make me forget all about so and so.
Right.
And it's not fair to either one of you.
Right. But if you're doing something to forget someone else, those aren't good motives.
No, but given the frame of mind that he's in, he's not.
Right. Yeah.
That's not clear thinking. Yeah. You're not morally on the high ground there. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're definitely walking a line there. So anyway.
So he realizes what's going on, pulls himself out of the...
what I mean is, it's not evil, but it's not right.
Right,
okay.
Yeah. He pulls himself out of the river, and honestly, he kind of looked like a... what's his name?
I don't know who you were trying to refer to.
Green Lantern, when he's coming out of the
water.
The water. He reminds me a little bit of...
Guy Gardner?
Guy Gardner. Yeah.
Who we're going to meet, I think, at the end of this volume.
Oh, cool. I mean, it's because he looks really pissed off, and the way his jumpsuit is like pulled down like the vest is.
Yeah.
It's just a little.
In that panel, there's some Guy Gardner things,
yeah.
But he's not even introduced yet,
right.
in the series. So.
And he's like, I got to go deal with this, and he flies back to the
hotel or whatever.
And he sees the plane, and he's like, well. That storm's coming. I gotta put this plane down before the storm gets it.
Yeah, so he puts on the plane, beats up the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not Nazis anymore. They're Germans. They were Nazis during the war. They're not. Their plot isn't to kill Jews or take over the world. It's to be art thieves.
Yeah, but I think once a Nazi, always a Nazi.
And that's debatable. This isn't like. The guys that ran away to Brazil like Nazi war criminals.
Okay.
These were just guys.
Alright.
Okay? Not every stormtrooper was a member of the SS. There's a difference.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So
the Nazis jump into a toboggan and fly down a snowy mountain. And Green Lantern, Hal, makes a conscious decision not to fly after them. He says, you know what? Hal Jordan could handle this right now.
Okay.
And so he's like, I'm gonna use the power ring to make some skis. And Hal Jordan's skiing skills are gonna come in handy now.
Yeah.
Because skiing is not something that the power ring can make him good at.
Right, he just made skis so he could just do a thing.
Yeah, he's just naturally good at it as Hal Jordan.
So he catches up with him and beats him up again.
Yeah. Knocks him off the toboggan.
Escaping on a toboggan is really funny.
Beats him up, and they end up just surrendering. They can't take on Green Lantern. So he takes him to the police, and he brings back the Wicked Queen of Hearts poster. And it's
painting, not poster.
Painting. I was looking at the Green Lantern poster.
Yeah.
Painting. He says, "Look, this is what happened. Your brother was a crook. These guys are crooks. They were smugglers. He gives them the backstory. He gives the daughter the backstory.
So when she's like, "Look, Dad's in the hospital. This would kill him. Please don't let him know that."
Yeah. And he says, that's totally fine, but the painting is going to go back to France.
She's like, I don't care. I thought it was ugly.
Yeah. And so she then brings Hal in the house and says, the one thing I do regret is not seeing Green Lantern in action.
And because
I adore him.
Because she's all into Green Lantern, he immediately is soured on the idea of trying to, get over Carol with her.
He says, you know what, screw it. Green Lantern is becoming my worst enemy.
Yeah.
And
man, the expression on his face is
yeah,
that consternation, but it's about himself or the situation. It's not like he's mad at somebody.
right.
But
he powers up his ring,
and
he
bails.
leaves him a note, and takes off in the night.
Yeah, it's very Bill Bixby in the Incredible Hulk TV show exit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just realized that now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you start.
Okay. But anyway, let's talk about the backup story, which is the cover story.
Mm-hmm.
Thraxton the Powerful versus Green Lantern the Powerless.
Yep.
Gardner Fox wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
Gil Kane did the art, penciled and ink.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
We will. So.
But when? Oh, no.
Hal's driving a station wagon now, and I don't know where he got it.
He's probably traveling down the road trying to loosen his load.
Yeah.
7 women on his mind.
Probably just one. Really.
Okay, yeah, it's Carol.
And so he says he's in between Idaho and Montana.
Ugh.
Yeah, and he's on his way to Missoula.
Oh, man.
So
Missoula's
he's in
Montana.
dire straits.
At least he's not. If he's in dire straits, I hope he's not going to sing that stupid Sultans of Swing song. Hate that. That's them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I always get them and the Moody Blues mixed up, but they both suck. So.
But as he looks over to his car, a bright green light is glowing, and he realizes it's not his power ring, it's his power battery. And the only time that lights up is when the Guardians are calling him. So he gets a call from the Guardians. They tell him to go to Space Sector 23K T45 and to check in on a Green Lantern that's not been in contact with them in a while.
Right.
So he lands on the planet and he's looking around, and there's it's weird planets weird buildings. They look like tops, like spinning tops.
Yeah.
And apparently that they spin and they generate power for the whole house.
The one thing I do want to note, Hal mentions that he's going to the planet of this Green Lantern that he's met before. I don't remember him meeting this guy before. Do you? I mean, there was a time there was a whole room full of lanterns, but
I think that if he's not referring to something that's not in the reading,
yeah,
he's probably referring to that when he died.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And so he's kind of wandering around I don't really know where to go, and this door slides open, and the wife of the Sector's Green Lantern says, "Look, you gotta find Davo." Davo Yule is the Green Lantern of the Sector. He went out to investigate the Misty Sea, and he's not returned in a few days. And he's like, "All right, I'll go find him." Yeah. And as he enters the mist, it drains his ring of power. Yeah. And he falls into the ocean and is immediately attacked by a sea monster.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
It looks like a big sea serpent, with the head of a hammerhead shark.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's, the way its lips on its mouth are done are a typical Gil Kane fashion. You know how he does those. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? How there's the big circled kind of brows or lips.
Kind of yeah. And so it takes a bite at Green Lantern, but so he swings at it with his power battery because he doesn't have any juice in his ring. And the sea monster takes a bite and swallows the power battery whole. And so he's powerless. He's lost his power battery. He's in the middle of this unknown sea.
Problem.
But he sees an island in the distance, and so he swims to it. And he finds Davo. And Davo gives him the backstory that he needed to investigate this mist. And it turns out Thraxon the Powerful, he's hell-bent on conquering Pharma, the planet they're on. And that he has no energy. He hasn't eaten or drank anything in days.
Right.
He's been stranded on this little island.
So Davo has a mohawk.
Yeah. Like
many of Gil Kane monsters.
Mm.
Because you remember he's...
Right, yeah.
Obviously Davo's not a monster, but Gil Kane does a lot of mohawks. So. And I have to point it out whenever there is one.
Right, yeah. So. And so Davos says, look, it's behind this impenetrable wall, you'll never get there, and it's beyond the sea. So you're going to have to try to swim there. It's going to be impossible. And I was like, well, I got to at least try. And so he swims out into the sea, and he goes looking for the serpent again. And he finds it. And he decides, I'll just get swallowed. It probably still has my power battery in there.
And it probably smells awesome in there.
And so he powers up, he finds he gets swallowed, he finds his power battery, and he, tries to charge his ring. And it totally works. And he realizes maybe the scales of this sea monster are protecting me from the mist that drains my power. And so he fashions wings onto the sea monster.
Yeah.
And flies out of the sea into in search of the fortress that Thraxon has created for himself. And he starts using the sea monster as a battering ram.
Of course.
And breaks down the dome of the fortress.
I'll break down your dome.
And jumps out of the mouth of the sea monster. And Thraxon is totally surprised. Another Green Lantern? I'll do with you what I did with the other one. And they start just walloping each other.
Yeah, it's a great fight.
Yeah. At one point, Thraxon uses a piece of broken machinery and nails Hal Jordan. And while he's about to take another swing, Hal Jordan pops him as hard as he can using the power of the ring, the power of his fist, and knocks Thraxon into a live wire.
Oh, okay.
And shocks him. I think it kills him because it doesn't talk about. Oh no, it takes him back to a special prison cell.
Yeah.
And so he comes back to the island where Davo is and prepares a meal with the ring for him to eat. And when they start talking about what happened, Green Lantern realizes, there's one problem with all of this. The only reason he was able to counteract your ring power,
because he knew where your power battery was hidden,
and because
he got the information out of his wife.
Yeah, he used a mental beam or something like that. And, probed her unconscious, and she found out. And so that makes Hal realize when he finally gets Carol back.
Yeah.
And marries her.
He can't let her know where the power battery is to protect them both.
Yeah, the power battery and herself.
Well, that's assuming he gets Carol back.
Right.
And assuming he can marry her, which are big ifs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it, right?
That's the end of the issue.
Yeah. And that's the end of our show for this week.
Yeah.
Next week, you and I will talk about some more issues of Supervillain Team Up.
Yep.
And those are great fun.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have anything else?
Yeah, so remember to like and subscribe. I don't know. Do something with iTunes.
You can rate and review us on iTunes.
Rate and review us on iTunes.
You can subscribe on iTunes.
Yeah.
You can like us on things like Facebook.
Yeah, like us on Facebook. And
we have a Facebook group too.
Twitter.
And yeah, we are on Twitter. All the things.
All the social things that you want to do, we're on them.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.